Today I'm talking to Shelly Tretter with Sotheby's International Realty in Greenwich, Connecticut. She has over 20 years of experience with properties from backcountry to waterfront communities, representing the finest estates in her market. She has received awards that include being acknowledged by the Wall Street Journal as one of the top 50 agents in the United States for dollar volume, and by Who's Who Residential Real Estate in North America. In Shelly's interview, we talk about how she started from ground zero and grew her business quickly through both creative ideas, aligning with the right people with integrity and authenticity, how she created exponential value for her clients and customers, and how this grew her to being a top agent not only in her market, but in the country. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast. Today, I am so excited to have Shelly Tretter, a top real estate agent with Sotheby's International Realty in Greenwich, Connecticut. She is among the best of the best in a very competitive market. Shelly, thank you for being here. It's so great to have you.
Jere, thanks for having me. I was looking forward to doing this with you today. I really appreciate it. This is fun.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a real estate agent.
So I've actually been in the business for a very long time. I started 2 years out of college after I graduated from college, and my father was in the development business, and he worked on the office buildings and commercial buildings in Manhattan, Fairfield County, Westchester County, and in Florida. He built condominium developments. And I actually always thought that I would get involved on the building side and development side. I thought I wanted to be an architect at one time, my early years of college, and really thought that I would work with him in the business and development. And when I started, late 80s, early 90s, what happened was the market was an absolute mess. It was in complete turmoil. The stock market had gone down, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity out there for building and developing. People were cashing out. People were losing quite a bit of what they actually had. So I had to reinvent myself within a moment of getting into the business.
Wow. Now remind me, what year was this?
Excuse me?
What year was that happened?
So I had gotten my license in 1988.
Okay.
Well, I was
right
after I graduated from college, and I was still employed, but with another company, not in real estate. But then what happened was, in the late 80s, 89, 90 is when I became active in the market. And during that time, it was after the crash.
Right.
So there was very little opportunity for development. So 90 and 91, I tried to figure out a way to separate myself. I'm in my early 20s. And, this is a business where, probably most of the people, the average age is about 50 or so, 45 to 55. So someone coming in at 22, 23 was not experienced. At that point, I had not even purchased my own home. So there was a big learning curve, and this is probably one of the few industries where your youth plays against you a little bit. So I had to. That was a big challenge for me. That was a really big challenge.
Wow,
for me.
As if the market weren't challenging enough. You're coming in at 22 years old. So how did you? Yeah, go ahead.
I did. I had to, figure out. So it was 23. How was I going to make a difference in this market and stand out and be someone who people would want to buy their biggest asset from? And there was just a whole lot of things in there that made me, sit back, take notice, and really outline a plan and a strategy for how I needed to go about it. I mean, my goal at the end was still to get into development and design. And so I kept thinking that if I had this as my background, that is what I eventually would do. I worked incredibly hard, incredibly long hours. Sometimes I was in the office by myself, for days on end. I started off at a very, very small office, which is no longer in existence.
Wow.
And, but I got a lot of experience, and I took on everything. When you're in a small office at that age, you're responsible for a lot. So I think I grew up quickly and took on that responsibility head on.
Wow. So what did you do? I think we talked a little bit offline about you kind of went through, you took a lot of avenues, or there were a lot of approaches you looked at taking and to breaking into the market. What kind of take us through that a little bit, and what was it that did it for you that helps you break into the market?
Well, there were two different areas that I broke into. And, one was the development end, because when you grow up with a father who that's what he's talking about all the time on a commercial level. And then as he got older, he started building very large custom homes for people. You're exposed to that on a daily basis. And it's interesting and it's creative and creating something that someone's going to live in. And so I became very well versed in land development, purchasing land, going through the process, understanding how you go through the town regulatory agencies once you've bought land, what needs to be done, and all these things that people just don't think about until they actually delve into it for themselves for the first time, which is usually the only time they do it.
Exactly.
So what I did, I thought, how am I going to get people to come to me for something that I knew, but I didn't have the experience as far as years behind me. So I actually rented a small room at the Hyatt, one of their conference rooms, and I marketed and advertised seminars. And I had a really small room actually at the time, so maybe 10 people could attend. So regardless of who showed up, it would always be full. And at that time, I actually engaged in people who were experts, the land planners, the civil engineers, architects, builders, my father, including other builders, interior designers, people who had been in the business for 20 plus years. And I had panels, and I moderated the panels. And that grew. It grew to where I had, 80 people in the last one that I did.
So how long did it take you? That's great. How long did it take you to get to 80 people?
It took me a year, but it was, every other Saturday, going to the Hyatt and taking this room. And then I would have a big easel. And, so people came to look at me as someone who knew what I was doing with regard to development of property. And I know it. I knew it then. But it was the only way to get the word out that I did know it.
It was a way to showcase your knowledge and your skills.
It was amongst people who were much better, much more experienced, and had great business acumen for what I was trying to present. So
and it gave you their endorsement by doing that.
It did. It gave me a great forum and platform because I found that those people that were coming to learn, they would refer me, they would recommend me, they would look with me for land for themselves.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And so that was all transpiring, in my early 20s, because you really do have to create something for yourself. And as you know, Jere, this is a really tough business. It's tough to make an imprint. It's tough to keep it going. You're constantly, trying to change the direction of where the market's going, and keeping yourself, vibrant and viable. During that whole time. So it was interesting and it worked. It was fun. I didn't know what to expect and it turned out really well.
So you were basically a brand new agent at the beginning of the year and you went from 10 people, that's so brilliant, 10 people in your little conference room. So did you move locations when you upped it to 80 by the end of the year, or did you keep it in the same place?
No, I stayed at the Hyatt, but I ended up renting out the bigger rooms.
I love it. So what did that do for your business over that year? You're putting on these events and you're bringing, from 10 to 80 people now, or 80 people just a year later. What did that do? How did that transpire in your business? How many clients do you think that generated?
I developed the knowledge that I needed. I developed a very, very good client base. But even more than that, these were people who necessarily wanted just to understand it. They weren't necessarily going to purchase themselves, some of them, but they referred me to other people. And people realized that I did have a strong knowledge of what I was doing. And so whether it was for land development or selling their house or, what needed to be done to add on to their house, they felt that they could come to me and I could help them.
I could advise. Something I'm reading into this, I think is an important message for, I mean, some people get this, but I think a lot of people in our business don't. I think there's so many people that come into this business thinking they just have to go after their friends for business because the people they know are going to sell real estate with them, which is so far from what's usually the truth. But even listening to you, and part of that's just because you're so good at what you do now, maybe, but it doesn't sound like you did this to go directly after people for business. You did this as a value add that created the reputation and the expertise that you needed that brought the clients and the referrals, which is so much more important, your way, which made it. I see agents do what you said, but they're going so hard for the attendees to get their business. And that's not necessarily the avenue to take, which is huge. And it's like you're not even thinking about it because it's so second nature to you. But yeah.
No, I'm such a proponent on knowledge and trying to gain knowledge and trying to offer that to other people and help them in some way. I'm probably the worst salesperson, if you will. I just don't sell. I do everything based on information, sales data. I like to put together charts and graphs so that people can understand, because that's my world that I live in. The people who are buying here are, rock stars in their own right. They're, very, very successful entrepreneurs. They've run businesses and companies and hedge fund managers, private equity guys, venture capital, investment bankers. They're just so smart in what they do that they don't have the time for misinformation or an opinion that isn't relevant because it's not based on something. And so I think, my biggest concern was always making sure that I knew. And if I didn't know, I would say I don't know. And then I would go find out. So, I think that's, you just can't sell. People are going to do something, especially at this level, based on being comfortable and having knowledge about what's going on.
I love to hear you say that. And I find the more successful the realtors I work with, they're so comfortable with telling you what they don't know. I think you find so many people out there that are out there to rock it and be the best and whatever and go pretend like they know everything. And then they don't, and it burns them. And to just come from that place of value add, education, and integrity is huge. So.
Now, you say that word integrity, and so many people, I think, use it loosely. I've been in the business a very long time, and I've never had a problem with someone where I've done the wrong thing. And it's because I would rather not have a sale than to have something be misrepresented. Or, I live in this community, and I have to put my head on my pillow at night and feel like I've done the right thing. And it's tough because you're intertwining business relationships, social relationships, dear friends, family. But if you keep it, if you tell the truth about something, it can be asked to you the question, 20 different ways, and the answer is still the same. And I think that's the most important thing. You can't be blamed for markets going up and down. Sometimes you're not thanked when it goes up because it had nothing to do with you, just as it has nothing to do with you when the market goes down. But the most important thing is, at the moment when someone's purchasing a property or selling, to advise them on what is the most important thing to do at that time. None of us have a crystal ball, but we certainly, through, just education and experience and stats of what's happened, you can guesstimate, where something could end up. And I think you just, to the best of your ability, need to do that.
Exactly. And we have the experience when we see it over and over again. We usually have a pretty good guesstimate, surprisingly. So sometimes. That's
right. And historical knowledge makes all the difference, doesn't it?
The history repeats itself. Exactly.
It does.
So I want to know I am already most proud of these events that you put on. That is brilliant. I mean, I've heard of that, but the way in which you did it, and even the way I hear you talk about it, I love what you did as a 20-something. But what are you most proud of as a real estate agent over your career?
I think on a very, very personal level, I think the fact that I've been able to separate myself and very difficult dealings, and not necessarily in a negative way, but just difficult situations, and really being able to navigate through them with ease, calmness, and I feel like expertise. And I don't let, we're all emotional, but I don't let my emotions get in the way of a deal. I can actually take a step back and think very clearly. and what's going on. And I think that's important because when you are integrated into a community like Greenwich, your community where you are in Atlanta, you become known for something that you're doing. And you need to keep yourself available and show that you care about where you're working. We pull a lot out of the community as well. I've done very well living in Greenwich. I've done very well working in Greenwich. And there's a moment in time where you want to give back as much as you can to the community that you've thrived off of in so many ways. Greenwich is just such a beautiful place to live, but that takes work from everyone who's a member of the community. It takes work and being there. And I really do. I feel like through all the business success that I could have, my personal success in doing a lot of charitable work in the community is what keeps me going a lot with the business aspect of it, because there's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. You can touch everyone that you're working with. You want to keep Greenwich, keep any community that you're living in such a way that it's there for generations, and that you're not trying to make a decision based on, one quick deal or sale, because nothing in life is ever worth that. And I really do feel good about that. I feel like I've been able to maintain this business for a very long time and be a part of the community and give back.
And I love to hear you say that. So everybody, this is coming from someone who has been named top 50 real estate agents by the Wall Street Journal, and also has been recognized in the who's who of Atlanta, of not Atlanta real estate, of real estate. That's me in my Atlanta world, but of real estate, the who's who of real estate in North America. And also, you've been recognized in your own community. I say all of this to say that when you hear this, this is coming from a big power player. She's, you're not messing around. A lot of times people assume they hear about real estate agents and they do this and they do that and they sell some houses, and that is not who Shelly Tretter is. And I'm going to add one more in there for you while I'm at it. But you were on the cover of WAG magazine as a power broker. I think you were on the cover of that magazine a couple of years ago, and that's a local magazine in your community.
Yeah.
So to hear you say that, I think I just wanted to remind everybody of who we're listening to. It's not, some people assume that to be as powerful as you are as a real estate broker, that it's just all hardcore, all work. And it is, but that doesn't remove any of the integrity and the giving back, which I think is what grows your business even more. So
I agree.
Wholeheartedly. Awesome. Yes. Or do you have a story you can give us? I love to hear, none of us, I think success isn't in that you didn't fall, but that you did and you got up, or what you did when you fell, or what we do when we hit hard times or have challenges, which a lot of our business is really just challenge after challenge and handling it and making successes out of it. But that said, what is something you can share with us that's a challenge you've been through that really has taught you some of the powerful lessons of being a successful person or a real estate agent?
What's interesting is that, you think that when you live in communities such as this community and any community in the United States where, the people that you're dealing with have such great wealth and access to things and experience, you just assume that keeps playing itself out. And, I think when you see people losing their homes, the foreclosures, short sales, situations where, people are, very much a part of the community, or they're very, perceived to be doing very well in life. And, even to see how many of them handle it with dignity, I think really levels everyone, and everyone keeps their feet on the ground. And, fundamentally, I saw that from the very beginning when I started my business. So to see people get hurt, financially hurt, really kept me humble in every way. So, I feel like, what obstacle have I overcome or challenge? I actually feel like they're challenges every day. And they're all small challenges, but they're challenges that are important to me and big to me. They may not be big to someone else. One of my favorite books, and it's just this, such a little read, is Who Moved My Cheese? And I love that book. And years ago when it came out, because, and sometimes I go back and read it because, I used to have a really hard time with change. And I still do a little bit. I think that's human nature. A lot of people do. But I mean, I really had to read that book because, I like things the way they are. And if they change a little bit, just to kind of snap back and then, and have that game face on is hard day after day when you are involved in challenges.
Yeah.
And it made me learn to change, to be able to change, to navigate my way through different situations all the time, know that every day could be a challenge. In our business, Jere, everything is different every day. You're working with different clients, different personalities, different sets of emotions, different financial situations.
Mm-hmm. And
then on top of that, you're dealing with all these governance rules and new bills that are passed and town regulatory agencies. And, everything is just changing so much. It's really hard to keep up on all of that at the same time and to be on top of your game and then to be, a great person and, a mother and a wife and, all those things. So every day I think it's a challenge. I do, actually. I mean, I've had major things that have happened to me in business, but none of them that actually I could even go back and look at and say, well, that affected me so much. And I couldn't, I had to really change my whole business plan because of it. That's just never been the case.
Well,
I do look at something straight on.
I love what you're saying because one thing, when the recession, when I talk about the recession, I talk about the one that, so I've been in this business for 15 years. And I remember 2008, actually 2008 was fine, but 2009 was horrible. But I remember thinking okay, I got to do something different. And every time I would look at something different, I was like, okay, I can still leverage my strengths the best in this business. But more to your point is that I have found, and I think you would agree that, and I think it's part of your point, that the challenge is this business, like the fact that you don't like change and you're so successful in this business kind of blows my mind because that's all this business is. But the challenges it brings every day grounds you as in somebody that's not a real estate agent might think we're just crazy or blowing smoke, but when you're in it, you know what we're talking about. The challenges that it presents this is what I'll say. I was talking to Jason O'Neill earlier, and he said the three things anybody will tell you not to bother anybody with is their family, their money, and their home. And we deal with people every day that involves all three, their family, their money, and their home. So we are presented with confrontation, conflict, and challenges on a level that is more intense than one might assume. But I say all of that to say it presents us a daily challenge that makes us, like you said, you learn how to ground, you learn how to work with an integrity and help people in a way that's not attached to the deal, but it's attached to what's the best thing for you, despite the fact that I'm having to be involved in your home, your family, your money where nobody should be. So
that's right. And also, and when you say all that going through, so you're involved in that whole 2000, really the end of 2008, but 2009, and, which really hasn't let go. It's been challenging ever since then. And for me to be, in the early 90s when that was my first experience with it, I remember thinking, no one wants to buy a home. That's what I do. I sell homes. What am I going to do? And I ended up, we're all computerized right now and everything is accessible for the most part on the internet and you sign up and you can get information about so many different things. But at that time you couldn't. And I literally would go into the town hall and go into the land vault. And so many properties were going to the banks. So I was just going through the land records and looking at the different banks and what they owned. And those banks and the FDIC and the RTC became my clients. And
Brilliant.
That took, because that's the only way that you could make any money. That's what was selling. So I did, a predominant amount of bank properties in that time, probably, 80% in Greenwich. I did, because I just started early. And I started looking. And I don't know what the moment was that made me realize I should go down to the land vault to do it. But I did it, and I spent days in there, months, and this went on for a couple of years, and I became one of the people in Greenwich that the banks would look to sell these properties.
Oh, and so that's great. So you've
that was like a springboard.
So you've taken the avenue of doing these events and doing panels and interviewing builders and architects. And that really built credibility. Then the recession hits, which I think of that. I did the fabulous short sales. Yours is much more exciting, where you went into the land vault. What are some other? The short sales. Oh, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I learned from it. But so you've obviously you're very, very creative. You think of good ideas before other people do, which I would absolutely attribute to your success. But give us, do you have any, because like all this stuff is just coming out here without me asking it. So tell us any more fun stuff that you've done like that to really recreate yourself and keep your business up and going.
Well, I think, I think being very diverse as a person makes a big difference in your business. I'm fortunate where I'm able to travel. I work very hard. I work all the time. I have people are accessible to me no matter where I am or what I'm doing. I'm here selling, but I do get to go to some wonderful places, which gives you a great perspective on life outside of, where you're living and what you're selling, to understand what people do want. I've also been involved in a luxury company, the Luxury Marketing Council of Connecticut and Hudson Valley.
Yes, tell us more about that.
So this started about 3 years ago, and they actually had asked me to speak at one of their events. And at the time, the gal who runs and owns the Connecticut chapter, she became a personal friend of mine, and now my partner at the Luxury Marketing Council. And I did that again to gain more business knowledge. It wasn't specifically to sell any of the members there a house or a property. Because I think it's really short-sighted if you look at the different things that you do. That's just like one dimension to your whole life and who you are. So I am a real estate broker, and I do love it most of the time. Sometimes I find it really difficult and hard on everyone around me, just the time that I put into it. But in order to be able to facilitate and navigate complex transactions and situations, I think you need to have experience in different areas. And for me, getting involved in this Luxury Marketing Council has given me the opportunity to connect with so many people who represent luxury brands. I'm at Sotheby's International Realty. It's the best luxury brand you could have. And so I align myself with that. I love luxury. I love luxury. Everyone loves luxury at a very high price, but luxury can be attained at any price. And it's a lifestyle. It really is. It's how you live and how you present yourself. And I think being a part of that and having access to so many business owners who run their own luxury business has been just very rewarding on so many levels. We deal with global situations today. There's a global, affluence of markets in that luxury arena. And we're at Sotheby's, and, we're a company that deals with luxury properties all around the world. And I think to understand luxury at different levels and different products, whether it's a Gucci handbag or Baccarat or Tiffany's, who's been a part of this organization as well, I think to understand how they're acclimating to the market is important for us.
Absolutely.
How we create a network for people is we do get together once a month. We hold kind of seminars or forums, I guess, if you will, and people talk about, I spoke at one of them and I liked it so much that then I became, partner with Catherine, who really runs and does everything there. But we've had different people speak. I was just on a board panel with Terry Betteridge, who owns Betteridge Jewelers. They're in Vail. They're in Palm Beach.
Oh, wow.
He's someone who has reached the pinnacle in his area of business. So to be around these people who have achieved so much in their luxury arena is interesting. And I think it's essential for becoming someone who understands, what's transpiring globally. We've had so many different people come in, again, at different levels. Everyone can perceive luxury at a different financial value because, look at Mercedes or look at, different car companies, they provided luxury at different levels.
Exactly.
The millennials should get the Mercedes, and then they grow into us.
Exactly.
Or into me.
Or in some cases, these millennials are starting at these days way up here. I think there's a huge transfer of wealth right now. It's kind of crazy, but no,
they're rung on the ladder is a little bit higher.
It's good. It blows. Yeah. I'm kind of like, well, I was born in the wrong generation for me. But tell us a little bit about, because you and I think it's okay to bring it up online. We talked offline a little bit about you are starting a podcast. I think it's going to be with the luxury brands, or I don't want to speak. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, well, you've inspired me, your
Thank
podcast.
You.
So I need to say that because I think it's incredibly informative, and that's what people are looking for. They're not looking for a lot of fluff. I think it's nice to listen to people and to understand what they're doing, and if you can pull one thing out of it, you've done really well for the time you've listened to it. Mm-hmm. And I would like to achieve what you've achieved on my end here in Greenwich. And I feel that to do that on the real estate end, which I know so well, is a great platform for me. And because it is luxury, we're at Sotheby's, it's luxury. I would love to be able to incorporate other luxury brands and understand, where the trends are, where the market's going. And I'd love to do that through a podcast.
Right. Yeah. So when you do that, we may have to have you back on to officially announce the date and the launch and make sure we help you get it out there, because I love that. That's so exciting. And there we go. One more creative way that somebody's, I was talking to Stacey Jones in a previous interview about, the common denominator of every successful agent being someone who owns an agent of 220 agents, and they've already done a $1.5 billion last year, which is huge. Everybody, our office in Atlanta,
amazing.
We're in a very different price point in Atlanta, and we're still in the top 10 in Sotheby's International Realty, but at 430 agents, and the top company in Atlanta, we're in the highest average sales price. We are doing $2 billion. So
and you're the top agent there.
Exactly.
And you're the top agent there. So
I'm up there. I'm top 3. So yeah. So
top 3 is fantastic.
It's
amazing.
I don't want to take it away from everybody else, but yeah, I'm up there. So we're having fun with everybody doing it.
That's great.
Definitely. So I love that. I want to get you back on for that, and then we're running out of time, so I want to ask you just a few more questions to bring this home and make sure we get everything we can out of you. What has been your so I've had 3 questions left, just, but anyway, what is your biggest aha in this business, coming into this business, what you thought it was and what you know it is now, or what your kind of big aha is about it?
I think those moments come, and they've come many times, when I'm dealing with someone who is either incredibly successful or high profile, again, at the top of their own field, and they really do look toward me for advice. And that is a great feeling, because I feel like it's done with respect and integrity. And I have resilience, and I've had that for a long time. Mm-hmm. You have it, to even be in this business.
Exactly.
But I feel like to be regarded as someone, as a trusting voice is really, it's just, to me, such a personal compliment. Those are my aha moments.
Oh, that's awesome.
Definitely.
That's awesome. That goes back to the friendships that we have with people that on a level that. But the friendships that we have with people, that's okay. But the friendships that we have with people that we would not have had otherwise because of this business.
That's right.
What is one book you would recommend that we read? Which I think you gave us, Who Moved My Cheese. That might be it. Or what is the book?
I did. I actually think, there's so many books, and I love to read. To me, that's actually a novelty, to be able to read, because we have such a small amount of time where we're not thinking about something else, and it's what can pull you into, just a period of relaxation. But that book, it's so simple, and no matter what you do in life, just being able to change, constantly being able to change, because I think that's where most people find it a challenge or difficult to move forward in anything in life, whether it's a career or anything that they're doing. It's just learning how to change and knowing that you're always going to kind of start at the bottom again, but just working your way up in whatever it is that you're doing. Because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're good at everything. You're probably just good at one thing. So, and
leverage
learning
that. Yeah.
That's okay.
Love that. And what is the one thing you want everybody, or if there's one thing our listeners to this interview take from this, what would you have that be?
That, well, I do love what I do, and I do care about the people I'm doing it with. And more than anything, that's probably the most important thing.
Well said.
There, people I work with are very important to me.
Well said. And that says a lot about your success as a real estate agent. Well, Shelly, thank you.